Okay, a couple days ago, I posted this video titled "Can Banks Create Money from Nothing" on YouTube, and I got one of these responses, which was interesting. Uh, Basically, it's saying this doesn't happen. It can't. For one, the Bank Secrecy Act is fully automated, and Form 8300 is electronically sent. Uh, Essentially, when something over 10K is transferred. Um, Mostly used to detect money laundering, but it would also very well hold any financial institute accountable should they have a way to create money out of thin air. So let's think about this. It's an interesting comment because I think a lot of people think along these lines, and this is exactly the kind of stuff that I'd like to address. So the first statement was this doesn't happen. Okay, the best thing to do is look up Richard Werner and the experimental evidence that he collected to show that banks do create money when they create loans. And right up front, I just want to specify I'm not saying that a bank acting legally just creates money without creating a loan. I'm saying they create money when they create loans. Uh, Although it's an interesting thought experiment to realize that the bank could just write down that they have more money than they do. And until somebody caught them, it would look like real money. But I'm not saying they legally do that, but I am saying they create the money um, when they create the loan. So it's kind of like they do that part where they just create the money on nothing, but it also comes with this contract where somebody is required to pay that back. And ultimately, if the person disappears and doesn't pay it back, it shows up as a loss for the bank. I mean, that's the way the accounting works. So, comments talking about the 8300 form. I mean, it's not illegal. That's the point. Like the 8300 is to detect something that's going on illegal. This is not illegal. The bank's not doing something illegal, and the person's not doing something illegal to use the loan. So you can report it to the IRS all day long. Nothing there is illegal. Um, okay, and then the comment continues. If you think your local bank is somehow making little micro manipulations, it's pretty far fetched. Um, it wouldn't risk their business over the small stuff. Already making money with fees and interest and all that. I think the idea was if you went under that um, amount that the 8300 requires, which is like what 10K, so just kept them small. Then, like you're saying, the banks wouldn't even bother with that. But like I said, that's not really what we're talking about. That 8300 is not. This stuff is actually legal, so it's not about making small transactions or large transactions. Really, it's just I'm just saying the banks create money when they create loans. It's interesting that you point out that banks do get tons of fees, which is true, and they can make investments and earn interest. This is also very true. So, like, why do they need or want this ability to create money? And the reason is if you have to actually get the money, like if you have to earn the money somehow before you loan it out, that's a lot more difficult than just creating the money and loaning out that money and collecting interest. And since the banks can get away with just creating the money out of thin air for the loan and then collecting interest on that, they would much rather do it that way. So that is how they do it. But yeah, I mean, you, it's not it's not a bad idea to think maybe banks should be actually required to earn the money. However, technically, this is what I think. Um, it's okay in principle. Like if you think about it in the old school way that banks did this, which was like if you've ever seen the old bills that a bank created that'll say $1, but it's actually from a bank instead of the government. That's essentially the bank creating its own money. I think that was a little more honest way of doing it because at least uh, that bill was basically labeled for the bank. So if that bank became unreliable, yes, all of their bills would then be worthless because that bank is reliable, but it wouldn't make the dollar in general unreliable or worthless just because that bank failed. So, I mean, if they were doing it like that, if they were creating the money like that, where the money is sort of labeled and it's attached to a certain bank and you can kind of tell where it's coming from, then I don't see a really big ethical problem. I mean, there might be a financial risk, but not necessarily a big um, ethical problem with them creating the money. But since they, at this point, the banks have gotten together and gotten to the point where you can't really tell who created what dollar, there really is a problem. It's called a moral hazard, actually, because you can't really tell who made the mistake when the banks start messing up, and it actually causes bailouts and inflation and stuff. I mean, sure, you can read on the news that this bank failed or whatever, but the end results of it, after all the bailouts have been given out and everything's been sort of quote corrected, the only thing you really notice is that all of the dollars have lost some of their values rather than just the notes from one bank losing their value. So, but my point is, it's legal. I don't know if it's the best idea in the world, but that is the idea that the banks use. So that's it.